Hello everyone. In this video, we will configure Azure Service Endpoint. The Service Endpoint provides us the connectivity to an Azure service over a direct route. We don't we don't need private IP address, and the communication still goes to a public IP address of a service. However, it works as an identity firewall and it blocks the traffic for other subnets or other IPs except the allowed one. I'm logged into the Azure portal and we will configure the service endpoint for a storage account. So first thing, we need to create a resource group which will hold all the resources that we need to create for this lab. I'll create a resource group with RG01 and the region will be same, Central India. Our resource group is created. This resource group will hold all the resources that we are going to create for this lab. We'll have to create virtual network. We'll name this virtual network as VNet01 and we'll create it in the same region as our resource group, which is Central India. We'll keep the same IP address range, just that we will have to change the subnet name. We will use subnet -a and we need limited IP addresses, so I'll go with /28. We need to create two subnets. One we will allow the traffic and one we will block the traffic. So right now we are creating one subnet along with this virtual network, and we will create another subnet once the virtual network is created. Now that the VNet is created, let's go and create the another subnet as well. So the second subnet I'll name as subnet B and we'll select 16 addresses /28. We have created two subnets, subnet A and subnet B. Both the subnets have 11 IP addresses available. Now we need to deploy two virtual machines. One virtual machine I'll name as VM-A and this will get the IP address from subnet A. I'll not choose any redundancy or security feature and we will use 2019 image. We don't need a data disk, so we are okay with the OS disk alone. In the networking tab, virtual network, the one which we have created, and subnet A for this virtual machine. We need a public IP address as well to access this virtual machine over the internet. And let's create this. While this is getting created, I'll deploy the second virtual machine as well. This virtual machine, I'll name it as VM-B and we'll create it with exact same configuration. In the networking tab, instead of subnet A, this virtual machine will be connected to subnet B. Rest everything is okay and we will create this one as. Now that we have two virtual machines deployed, virtual machine A and virtual machine B on both the subnets, we will have to deploy one storage account. So let's deploy the storage account. Primary service will be Azure Blob and I'll choose locally redundant storage. Rest everything will keep as default. We need to change few settings actually, but we will change those once the account is created. Our storage account is created. Let's create one container. Under the blob containers, I'll deploy one container. We'll name it as container 01. Anonymous access level is currently grayed out and it is showing private because these settings are coming from the storage account. We'll have to change those in order to be able to access this storage account from the public internet. We will upload one file here. I have a notepad file created. We have uploaded this file here. Let's see if we can access this file with the URL. So it is saying public access is not permitted. So let's change the access settings. Under the overview, we can see blob anonymous access is currently disabled. We have enabled it. Now on the container also we need to change the access level. We recently made a change on the storage account access level, so it is still not reflected yet. It might take some time. Now we have changed the access level on the container. Let's refresh this page. So now we are able to access this file. We will try the same thing from both the virtual machines that we have deployed. So let's log into virtual machine A. So there are multiple ways to access the storage account from a virtual machine. Either we can use the Azure portal or the blob URL, or we can also install the Azure Storage Explorer and configure the storage account in that. Or the another way is to connect through PowerShell. We are logged into virtual machine A. I'll open the Edge browser and paste the same URL for the test file we uploaded to blob. Okay, this test file is accessible from the virtual machine A. Let's try the same thing from virtual machine B. It should be accessible from virtual machine B also because we haven't restricted any traffic yet. Okay, it is accessible from both the virtual machines. Now let's create the service endpoint. So from the service endpoint, we will restrict traffic. We will limit the traffic only to subnet A, and we will check if subnet B virtual machine is still can browse the file or not. So to deploy this storage endpoint, we need to go to virtual network, go to the VNet, and we have option to deploy a storage account, storage endpoint. Here we need to select the service. So there are two options with Microsoft Storage. If the storage account is still in same region, then we can choose this one. If the storage account is in different region, then we can choose the global. So my storage account is in same region. I'll choose the Microsoft.storage. Select the subnet. So we are going to configure this only for subnet A. Okay, service endpoint is created for subnet A. Now let's go back to our storage account. Under security plus networkings, click on the networking option. Here the access is enabled for public network. So this public network includes internet. So all the devices connected to internet can access the storage account, and we have tested that. We tested from the local machine, we tested from both the virtual machines deployed in Azure. Now we will limit the access. I'll choose the second option, enable from selected virtual networks and IP addresses. Now we need to select the existing virtual network. I've selected VNet 1, and then I can see two subnets. Subnet A has the service endpoint already deployed. Subnet B doesn't have a service endpoint, so it says service endpoint required. So from this window also you can deploy the service endpoint. If I select subnet B here, then it will configure the storage account. It will configure the service endpoint that is required from the backend. We don't need to configure that now. For this lab, we will go with one subnet only, subnet A, and let's save this configuration. If you have noticed, I have not entered my computer's public IP address as well, which means it should block access from my computer also to the storage account. And whatever files are uploaded in the storage account should be only accessible from the subnet A. So this configuration is saved. It might take some time to reflect. Let's refresh this page. Now we are getting authorization failure error. Let's check from both the virtual machines. Let's first check from virtual machine A. We are still able to browse this file. Now let's check from other virtual machine. It is blocked. So both the virtual machines have two network cards. One network card has public IP address and other network card has private IP address. Earlier the traffic was going through public IP address, but now the moment we configured service endpoint, the traffic is going through private IP address and will be hitting to public IP address of the storage account. Service endpoint acts as identity based firewall, and it allows the traffic only from the allowed subnet, configured subnet, and it block the traffic from all the other networks. So this was all about the service endpoint. In the next video, we'll see how to configure private endpoints. Thanks for watching this video.